Patrick Dowd, you made an assertion this weekend that Twin Peaks is better than Game of Thrones right now.
Whoa.
And we're big nerds. There's no one around this table who's not a nerd. And that, even for me, that assertion, I thought, whoa, laying down the gauntlet. So I want to give you an opportunity to explain why.
I mean, just a few.
Remembering that we're trying, we're not talking about part 15 today. We're talking about part 14. And Melissa is not caught up totally on Game of Thrones.
I'm not.
But I am one of spoilers for almost all of Game of Thrones.
Okay, right. It's not really about spoilers or like what's going on in Game of Thrones, but the feeling I get watching these two is I just have a more like heightened sense watching Twin Peaks. I'm more like on the edge of my seat. I'm more nervous about what's going to happen next. I'm just like, I'm more scared. I'm like, just, I don't know, more engaged in worse. I don't know if it's just because I've read all the Game of Thrones books and it's been 6 years of waiting for the next book. That's been frustrating, and just kind of knowing where the series is going too, like it's kind of like obvious now. Like I'm not like shocked by Game of Thrones anymore.
Yeah, you've been equally, by the way, listeners. Pat is like, I would say, equally diehard Game of Thrones and Twin Peaks. Up until maybe this season, I would have said more Game of Thrones than Twin Peaks. So it's not a foregone conclusion that you would have said that. It surprised me a little bit when you said it.
As far as a TV viewing experience right now, I think that I do like the fantasy world of Game of Thrones
for sure. More boobies.
Younger
boobies.
I'm talking about the book.
I know. That's not what Pat was saying.
Many boobs.
Although, George does write some pretty sexy scenes.
He does.
I've kind of forgotten about that. But
Twin Peaks can be sexy too. This year we haven't really gone there.
Right.
But
Dad wrote a porno.
Well, we've had more TNA in Twin Peaks than the most recent episode of Game of Thrones.
That is true.
Not so much TNA in Game of Thrones this season.
No, there's no time for that. We've got to get through the story. We got to get through this. I mean, I will admit, I think on one hand, I think that Game of Thrones is a great season or a great series, but their more recent season has been a little weak. But I think that Game of Thrones is sort of made for its viewers, whereas Twin Peaks is more made for the maker, I guess.
It's made for the maker, you're right. Yeah,
right.
That is really true. I mean, Twin Peaks is about what David Lynch wants.
Yeah.
Right.
And that happens to coincide with this following that he's cultivated, but he doesn't care. He doesn't care what we think.
I also think it's smarter in a way because you have to be paying attention. It's not for the casual fan where Game of Thrones they throw in
you could be like, oh my god, battle scene, tits, and not and I am not reducing Game of Thrones to that because it is really really good.
It's really good, but it's also
you could just get that kind of visceral satisfaction from it.
Right.
I don't think honestly, I don't think it's a very fair comparison because you're talking about different.
True.
I mean, I was talking to somebody about.
Right. It's like apples and oranges.
It is
but
apples and oranges.
I don't know the feeling I get the watching experience.
Well, it's also that we're watching. Usually, we're watching Twin Peaks and then watching Game of Thrones, and sometimes it will feel like, oh, that's cute that Game of Thrones after Twin Peaks.
Right.
It feels very I think Twin Peaks, for me, it's not necessarily Twin Peaks versus Game of Thrones, but Twin Peaks versus everything else. The way Twin Peaks has changed how we take in television and the pace, and it's very different pace from all other TV, makes Game of Thrones seem like tropes thrown up together very, very quickly, whereas Twin Peaks feels like a deliberate tapestry woven over time because of how slow. I mean, now they're potentially even messing with us to the degree where they're potentially adding Fire Walk With Me deleted scenes and making us think that they were actually scenes in Fire Walk With Me, because now we don't even trust ourselves. So I think it's just, true. To me, it's changed the way that I look at television and movies, and it makes other things feel different. Where, like, other things I can be scrolling through my phone reading news, but Twin Peaks you have to, like, stop and play back and listen and pay attention. And that could be bad in today's day and age, but it could be awesome.
Or do you think it's also due to the fact that we are heightening our overall sense because of this podcast? We pay more attention to more of the number theory versus other people. Where other people might not be jotting down,
like every number.
It's 253 yards.
At
nice
2:53 p.m.
Well, you guys, like, you'll play back, parts of Twin Peaks so that you can catch, you'll rewatch sections, and people do that with Game of Thrones, but it's usually because they're usually trying to remember, like, everybody's fucking name on that series.
It's true.
Right.
And the tits and ass.
Yes.
Obviously. I'm sure there's... What do you think Podrick did with those hookers?
Something
we'll
great.
Never know.
We'll never know. Yeah.
So it doesn't give you all the answers.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Kind of
much like Twin Peaks, it doesn't give you all the answers. Well, I will say a theme that we've started to pick up on that definitely becomes clearer and clearer in 13, 14, and 15, which we'll be podcasting about super soon, is this transitional scene thing. And I feel that might have been helpful, actually, in Game of Thrones, and that's the last Game of Thrones reference I'll make. But sometimes when the plot is driving as quickly as it is in, like, that 7-part mini series or whatever, like, I could have used the transitional in between scenes that are now totally clearly there. Between important scenes, we get these, like, sorbet scenes, and it's so helpful to just put you in the headspace to be ready to transition into, like, major information. So part 14, I know the description is something about the dreamer.
We are like the dream.
Yes. That is, like, one thing I have blindness on. I will never remember. I never know the description.
If you just, before you watch the episode, you just jot it down. Yep. It's right there.
Lots of other things jotted down, drawn out, and graphs and charts.
To get that description.
It's all right.
We're starting on Buckhorn with Gordon calling Lucy, which is a sweet kind of callback recollection moment to have Cole calling Lucy, and it's the first, it's like a strong connection that we're getting closer and closer between Buckhorn and Twin Peaks.
He's returning a call, too.
Right, returning a call. First time he's talked to Lucy in a long time. There's some Lucy's dumb gags, which I could probably do without. That's one thing I disagree with. Like, I didn't think in the original series, even though I know her maiden name was Moran, like Moran, like she's a moron. But I never thought she was actually dumb. I thought she was, like, eccentric and spacey, but good at her job. And sometimes she comes up with the best conclusions. So I hate that they keep kind of, like, poking fun at Lucy's
What did
intellect.
they say, though?
Well, he says, "You've been here all through the years, Lucy?" And she, like, takes it literally and goes, "Well, one year we went to Bora Bora."
Oh, right.
We've gone home.
Yeah, like, we go home every night, Cole. Like,
that's what she's literal, and she's the one who probably caught Chad, who gets put away later this episode.
Maybe it's just not they're saying she's dumb, but it's a different way of thinking.
Yes, exactly.
She has, like, a lot of memory to retain facts, but she only retains them in a like totally linear.
Maybe she's like semi-autistic.
Yeah.
You think
semi-autistic, possibly?
And it's the time, like, our generations, where it's like, that wasn't a thing. No one was autistic,
right?
Or they just couldn't diagnose it,
right? Because
the other thing,
you had the kids that were like, "Oh, he's just a little slow. It's cool."
Yeah, I often think
but it's like, oh. And, like, the ones that were, like, socially awkward, and you're just like, that's just who he is. And then now it's like, oh.
We can give him something for that.
I know.
Or there's the stigmatism, too, where parents don't want to get that news.
I mean, it's because of all the vaccinations. mean, let's just peel off that, you know. Anyway, getting back to...
I mean, I also think that sometimes when we watch, like, about kinks, like, now, because everything's out there and on the internet, we know, like, oh, Furby, cool. Like, this thing, cool. Like, there's a kink for everything. So, like, Outlander, I was like, oh, if this guy was in modern day, he wouldn't be, like, a vicious predator. He'd just be, like, BDSM guy online. Anyway.
Yep.
I thought you were going to say that, like, Lucy's eyes look like a Furby's eyes, because they kind of do a little bit. That's where I thought you were going with
really
that.
Really spectacular.
Very funny.
Yeah. And then also cool transition that Cole, of course, thinks Truman is Harry Truman, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's the new Truman.
That's why I think that there's going to be, like... I just hope that maybe Harry just pops in for, like, a guest appearance.
I know, I'm still rooting for it. But I think, like, he just is just not
I think they obviously wrote it for Harry.
Right.
So this is where we find out that, you know, Truman gives Cole the connection with the two Coopers from Laura's
And the diary pages.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the fact that Cole won't, like, fill Truman in on anything?
Well, he's untrustworthy. It's still because it's a Blue Rose case.
Right.
So it's like...
And he doesn't know this Truman.
I know.
Too, so...
It is just funny that we're so invested in both these plots, and that could conceivably be the end of their connection for a little bit. Like, he's like, thanks for the info, I really appreciate it. He's very sweet about it. But then he's like, can't tell you anymore, bye. Don't really... Whew. And so now we gotta buckle down because we got a lot of mythos. If we're talking X-Files, this is like cigarette smoking man everywhere.
Right, but can we first discuss how this Buckhorn, South Dakota hotel, where we see the exterior, which does feel like the first or second time, then we're go inside. The interior is like this swanky ass hotel.
But we've been to this
South
interior
Dakota.
before.
Right, but I feel like we haven't really seen the exterior as often, where you kind of connect the two, where you're like, oh, now they're in this swank hotel room with so much Apple merchandise surrounding them.
Yeah.
Which I don't think the government uses. I feel like they're a Microsoft company. That's just
they're
what
very,
I think that they're PC people.
Totally.
Not Mac people.
Totally true.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's the first time we put together
like,
these two
do you
settings.
think of an FBI on his iMac? No, you think of him on his weird Dell computer that's a little too old.
Yeah, they're not using state-of-the-art technology.
Right.
No.
Well, I think the important point is that they're like, even with locations, they're tightening everything together. Now they're making it really clear how Buckhorn ties in to Twin Peaks and how, like, this interior
and my
we've
big
seen.
Question is, where did all this equipment come from? That is what I've
because
highlighted,
now, I mean, maybe it means
circled.
Because now this is like a legitimate FBI case that has enough enough connections to other cases where now they have the resources and the funding where it's like, okay, let's make this for real, you know, let's do this. I don't know. It's so we get this scene is really tough to unpack because it's just a lot of explanation, and it's the way that they do this, which is kind of smart, is that Tammy is kind of being downloaded or debriefed into the Blue Rose Society, and so Albert is just literally explaining to her what the Blue Rose thing is. And I have to say, I was surprised. I never thought we'd get as clear and concise and like laid out what Blue Rose meant. I always thought it was going to be sort of an obscure thing. So this surprised me a little bit.
No, definitely we get a lot more exposition than exposition.
He went very Clarissa explains it all.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So what is the name of the lady who?
So the woman is Lois Duffy.
Lois Duffy.
And in 1975 in Olympia, Washington,
I'm giving you a beat while you do it.
There's two women, one on the floor, the other with a gun in her hand. One is shot on the floor. And she says, I'm like the Blue Rose, smiles, dies, and then disappears.
Yeah, so that's the the doppelganger, the one who disappears, right?
Right.
Because,
and then that's when they look and they see that the woman holding the gun is also Lois Duffy. So both women have been Lois Duffy, and then later she hangs herself.
Yes. So a lot of important things about that. Very well done, Melissa. Melissa explains it all to take Nate's joke and piggyback. But I think... So
I don't have a Sam coming through my window.
Yeah. So a lot of cool things. Amazing, so first we're learning about, like, the doppelgangers. And I love this build with, like, it's two coops. We first hear two coops, and then we hear it repeated, and now it's this explanation. So we've obviously made the connection, and they're feeding it to us, but in a subtle way that isn't too over the top. The other thing that I love is there's a lot in this episode, obviously, with dreams, and the way that Albert describes this scene is very dreamlike. It's very kind of experiential and odd and in the moment, and I think they do a lot of that. There's a lot of very dreamlike prose and descriptions that are very dreamlike. There's a lot of, like, someone explaining a dream or an intuition and it becoming true. And that's a really big tie in all of Lynch's work that I think is super, super fun to just dive into an experience in a cool way.
And just to go back to the whole big scene, and Albert goes, those two people that found Lois Duffy were Gordon Cole and Philip Jeffries, which is a big plot point. And then he's like, what's the significance of the blue rose? And Tammy and her fucking bad acting. I'm sorry. It's horrible. I hate her face. I hate it so much.
I've been getting more on the Tammy bandwagon. I have to say, I don't hate her in this scene.
I hate her so much.
Tammy is a dude.
Well, I think
Nate comes in with this theory.
Yep. Nate thinks Tammy's a dude. Is it because of her dude-like movements or just her voice?
She has a very Jessica Biel
exactly. All of that.
All of it.
I can see that because I always hate Jessica Biel too,
she
has
gorgeous,
that kind of masculine like way about her. It's like you want to punch her in the face for no reason. But Tammy's just a bad actress. Like, she can't do the subtle, I'm taking in this knowledge in a natural way because.
But maybe she's not supposed to appear natural. I have a theory now that I think she's supposed to be Diane Foyle.
I think you're just being hooked into some kind of weird, like, Stockholm syndrome. You've just been with her too long. And you're like, yeah, I get you, Tammy, I get you.
I still hate James. My hatred of James has been my north. Yeah. I've turned on Bobby. But I've turned on Sarah, but James has been my
Tammy's giving us what we need because she's giving us the explanation. So you connect with her more than
you've given
James.
Me the food pellets of information.
Right. Including what a blue rose is because
which I liked is she calls it a tulpa.
Yep.
Which I had to look up and I'm going to read it right now. It's a being which is created through spiritual or mental powers. So that's obviously like what the doppelgangers are.
Right.
So I don't know. I just like that. It's definitely a good description.
It's a great description, and she says.
And it's from a Tibet. Also, it's a Tibetan term.
Weird.
Or thought form, which obviously Coop loves.
Yes, Coop loves Tibet. As does Cole.
As
does Lucy.
As does our faithful director.
Yeah.
Here, David Lynch.
Yes. Okay, so awesome. I agree. And Pat, I have to say, when you looked up that tulpa, I was like, ooh, I love this man. But Tammy specifically, I love too that Tammy's getting this is like her onboarding time for the Blue Rose Club. She's being like quizzed by her superior. But she says the Blue Rose does not occur in nature. But I wrote this note, okay, doppelgangers versus Doug Puzz versus original Dougie, which was like manufactured for a purpose. So remember how in the first episode where we meet real Dougie, like non-Cooper Dougie,
he's coherent,
who's like coherent that gets sucked into the electric socket as one does. Right. Remind me about electric theory.
We'll bring it up.
Yeah. Okay. Good. When he goes into the Black Lodge, the one-armed man. Sometimes as I'm talking and saying things like this, I say, do you hear yourself? You sound crazy. As he goes into the black
That's
lodge.
why I just sometimes want to go, anyone at work, like, want to talk about Twin Peaks? Because I have some theories.
You always end up, like, scaring people because you're like, yeah, but how the one-armed man in the Black Lodge. But so the one-armed man in the Black Lodge says about Dougie when he gets sucked in there that he was manufactured for a purpose to, like, and the sense I got, at least at the time, was that it was to allow evil Coop, doppelganger Coop, to, like, enter the world and use Dougie, like, as a substitute. So that word manufactured to come up again.
Yeah, I think his purpose was that when it was time for Doppelganger to go back, he didn't go back, but it was manufactured Dougie who went back.
Right, but so my question is, is a tulpa a doppelganger or a manufactured being who, like, subs in for a doppelganger,
so I think,
like Dougie does?
So I think a tulpa is a doppelganger, and then Dougie is a doppelganger of a doppelganger. So it's kind of like a distorted version
like that Michael
of
Keaton movie.
Yeah.
Oh, like
Multiplicity.
You can make a copy of a copy, but it's just not as sharp.
She touched my pippy. That was, like, my favorite movie for a while. I love Michael Keaton.
That is a curious fact that I just learned about Kelly.
That was like when I was like, I'm not sure about Michael Keaton.
I used to, like, quote that movie all the time. I love that movie.
Did you really love when Jack Frost too, where he turns into a snowman?
In Multiplicity, when he takes the folded piece of pizza out of his pocket, come on, that was brilliant.
No, that was some good comedy. I would
comedy.
definitely pair that. I would pair that with Groundhog Day for a little back-to-back Andy McDowell comedic
I also
action.
love Andy McDowell. Shut up, she's amazing.
Except she killed all those puppies.
What?
In 101 Dalmatians, so we're in life.
I don't know. Maybe she didn't. I'm just making stories happen.
Crazy.
Okay. Spreading your false gossip.
And other...
You heard it here first.
McDowell Kills Puppies.
No, but I agree with Pat, because it's like, I feel like it's the tulpa and, like, the good person.
Right.
And then there's Dougie's just kind of a vessel.
Wait, so the tulpas are good or bad?
The tulpas, I always think, are the bad version of the good.
Okay.
It's your shadow self.
Okay, so that's so tulpa and doppelgangers are synonymous. Because we've got these two disparate evil beings with the Dougpas and the doppelgangers. Because Bob is a Dougpa, but EC, Evil Coop, now is just a tulpa.
Yeah. Right.
Because he doesn't have Bob.
Because, like, the Dougpas can take
over
over someone, but it's not like they're not synonymous with each other.
Right. And one of the beings derives... I know. But this is probably how more of the Twin Peaks podcasts are. Ours are usually, like, talking about multiplicity, but...
And Jack Frost, because he was a weird snowman for a whole movie.
Keaton time. This whole scene is a really, like, good, long, lots of character stuff. So Diane comes in, and Cole asks her if Cooper mentioned Briggs the last time she saw Cooper, and of course...
So we find out that Janie E. is related to Diane, because once Gordon tells Diane that they find a ring that says, "To Dougie love Janie E." or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Which was in Major Briggs' stomach.
Yeah, which was in Major Briggs' stomach. He says, or Diane says that I have a half sister. Is it half sister or?
It's a half sister.
Half sister whose name is Janie E.
Yeah.
And is married to a Douglas Jones.
Much like Donna and Audrey.
Yeah.
My first thought
half
was
sisters
this is
right there.
This is the new Donna and Audrey. I thought this was a really cool reveal, and is another way that we're now tying the locations together. This is the first real tie from Buckhorn to Las Vegas, which we've known that Dougie's the tie, but otherwise the investigative powers that be have had no idea. This is the first time they finally have, like, a solid connection of, like, okay, there's no way he'd see this as a coincidence that doesn't merit super severe attention.
Right.
This Diane. So now we know the Diane and Janie E combination. And we know that they're estranged for years.
And Diane hates her.
Yeah, Diane hates her.
And she apparently, it seems like she hasn't seen a picture of Dougie.
Right, because
or she's just not saying that. Because she would know what Coop looks like.
Like, you would know what Coop looks like. You wouldn't be like, you married someone who looks like just like my boss.
Yeah.
Right. Like, just like this guy would totally do
that I'm in love with a little bit, that like sends me tapes of his private feelings.
He's a little fatter.
Well, how old is their kid?
That kid, I feel like that kid has aged in the last 3 episodes.
I guess it's...
He was like 14 in the last episode.
Is it possible... Is it possible that it's not Dougie's kid?
I do think it's possible.
I do think because he looks half Hispanic.
And it has to be a purposeful... They've been so spot on with familial casting. We're not talking about it yet today. But they've been so spot on with that. Like, there's no way that they would just accidentally cast a kid who doesn't look anything like Kyle MacLachlan or Naomi Watts and be like, whoops. You know, like they knew what they were doing.
Jim just is this.
Although doppelgangers can... Whoop.
We don't know. We haven't. We're not talking about 15 today.
Well, we don't know the father yet either.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're the worst. See how hard it is to not do subtle spoilers? It's really hard.
It's alright.
Some of us are fine with it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Good point. Yeah.
Just background, Nate, because if you didn't listen to when we watched the original Twin Peaks, Pat was just all about the subtle spoilers. Where it was like suddenly
just minor ones, just minor little ones.
Where it was like suddenly we were like, Pat, we don't really know that yet, but what you're saying is alluding us to this.
Things like calling a character the Widow Milford when she wasn't widowed yet. Like little things like that. Like not important, but just
I think
spoilers.
I think I just couldn't help when like Tom was like, "You're totally wrong, Melissa." And
I know. Melissa,
I was like, "No, sorry,
spoilers
Tom. You're
for
wrong."
those of you who haven't. If you're just listening to the podcast for the first time, which please don't. That's dangerous for everyone involved.
Listen to some of our back episodes first.
Subtle background spoilers. Melissa was always right. Always right. It was really funny.
The first round was a lot of easy tropes, though.
Yes.
This round.
Now it's not so easy.
Like SVU gone like
no.
Extreme.
I mean, yeah, it's really not so easy to pick up on things. So I love the connection between Diane and Janie E. I think it's a great way to pull everything together. And I love the idea. Now it makes me think. So I've said before, I've always, of course, hoped for Audrey and Coop. I now have no hope. And the reason I don't have any hope is not necessarily because Audrey might be in a mental institution, which we'll talk more about next episode.
Or this, maybe a nut house.
But I think it's more to do with the fact that there will come to a head this, when Cooper inevitably remembers his past, and I think there will be some of Dougie memories too. It'll be this, do I want to be with Janie E and Sonny Jim, or this other life that I think will be Diane, which makes sense because Diane has been Cooper's North. I mean, she has been the most consistent person in his life for everything. Diane was famous to all Twin Peaks fans before we met Diane as Laura Dern. So I think it makes more sense, and it's a more powerful choice for Diane to be the foil, or the counter to Janie E than Audrey. I think that wouldn't be a powerful choice. So I'm willing to secede my ship and let the ship sink into the depths and just watch it and cry as the ship just sinks.
I just don't think there's going to be any ship for Cooper in this.
Yeah, probably not.
I feel the only ship it could be, though, is Diane.
Yeah.
Because it's more of a...
evil Coop wants Diane, and good Coop wants Janie E. Or not good Coop wants Janie E, but right now it's evil Coop's communicating with Diane, and good Coop / Dougie Coop is with Janie.
And then good Coop just has his moral grounds, where it's look, this child, I should love this child.
Yeah, and that's where, too, I think it's going to be the pull between the two children of his, which we'll talk about later.
So when then is Gordon? Does he go right to the Monica Bellucci?
No, first he calls the Las Vegas Sheriff's Department.
Oh, this I didn't understand.
Really
so if someone could just explain it to me.
See, okay, I don't know.
This wasn't as cute as I didn't think it was cute. I thought it was annoying.
I think it was first of all trying to make it a clear tie because it's call from Cooper to Twin Peaks, then conversation in Buckhorn, then Cooper. I do that all the time. Cole to Twin Peaks.
Cole's our
Buckhorn,
Cooper in this,
right?
this series.
It's really true. And then Cole to Vegas, where Cole is literally pulling everything together. So we had to get that sort of through. And I always keep my notes by settings, and we haven't had a setting change yet. It's all been Buckhorn. So it's all this big long scene that's tied together by these phone calls.
Yeah.
So I think the point is that we need to tie Vegas in and show that Cole is taking Diane super seriously because he's like, Dougie and Janie E should be considered like the highest priority. You need to find these people. And then I also think we get a little bit of this peripheral thing that's happening where everyone's just heightened emotions. Everyone is just blowing up at people, behaving oddly. There's dreams and heightened emotions that are kind of sifting into where the Las Vegas sheriff just yells at Wilson.
That was great.
Yeah.
I also like him from Mad Men.
He's so actor. Great. He's Peggy ends up with Peggy Olsen. Mad Men spoilers too. We just like to spoil everything on this show.
You guys are the worst.
We're the worst. He's the best. He's Peggy Olsen's beatnik love.
Yeah.
Oh
he's
yeah.
So great. Yeah. And he's Pat's doppelganger.
Yeah, he's a big bearded man in Mad Men.
Yeah.
So I love him.
And he just yells at Wilson for nothing. Poor Wilson was just going about his job.
How many times do I have to tell you this is what we do in that
I know.
And then he bangs on his desk and I was just my note is just why?
I know, because it's
don't understand.
heightened emotion for no reason, out of nowhere.
And then there's the window cleaner who's screeching.
Oh yeah, we forgot that. That was a mini palate cleanse.
That's a mini palate cleanse.
Before Diane came in.
It just puts you in an uneasy mood,
right.
It seems really weird, but that's only because of Gordon's hearing aid.
Right. But would you say, and that Gordon's hearing aid works into my electricity theory.
Right.
Electricity is a thing that ties everything
together.
Definitely,
everything is static.
Right. And Gordon has the advantage because he's got the, NATO is blind and Gordon's a little bit deaf, and the two of them are going to maybe lead them to the truth. But I think that's where Gordon has an advantage. Also because David Lynch gets to be the main character in his story. He's just I feel like Gordon is kind of the main character. I mean, he's tied everything together.
Main character.
Whereas in the original Twin Peaks, he was there for background color. Now that's why I keep calling him Cooper, because he's the main character. And then we get into the Monica Bellucci dream. So got ideas about Monica Bellucci?
So he's having
Sometimes
lunch.
I was it in
Paris that he was having lunch?
Yes, Paris.
With Monica Bellucci, his type of lady.
I can't speak.
She is totally his type of lady.
And
she's in the Matrix. She's also known as the most beautiful woman in Italy.
And she is gorgeous. Yep. And David Lynch was married to Isabella Rossellini.
She's also in
similar to Isabella Rossellini.
She's pretty good in Mozart in the Jungle too.
Is she?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing in that. She's so good. She plays She plays a washed up opera singer who's trying to make a comeback, and she's brilliant. Oh my god. Yeah, she's great.
I saw that season. Was that the most recent season?
Most recent season, yeah.
I was
really good.
Yeah. She was also in The Matrix because I also went into a small IMDb vortex.
Because you thought she was Isabella Rossellini for a second.
No, I knew she was someone.
She's way hotter than Isabella.
Because I saw.
Don't tell that to David Lynch.
Oh well.
She was the one in The Matrix who was give me a kiss.
Yeah.
Because I like you.
In the white peplum dress. I loved that dress.
And then she was also a Bond girl. So, and then I was like, then I went into her wiki. It was a whole thing.
I mean, David Lynch likes a stunningly beautiful, sexy woman. That's for sure.
Dark hair.
Side note, she's also a good actress because
she
even when she's
actress.
just like not trying, Tammy, she's like, she's like emoting in some way, like it feels real versus Tammy where it's just like, oh yeah, really, Lauren? That's cool.
Yeah, you're
right. Got it.
Kid.
I don't know.
She says we are the dreamer that dreams within the dream. Something like
we're like the dreamer.
We are like the dreamer that
who dreams and then lives inside the dream.
And then lives inside.
But who is the dreamer?
And then she motions. She looks behind Gordon and is kind of motioning him to look behind himself.
Right.
And he
first
looks
of all,
behind, and then he sees the Fire Walk with Me flashback.
Yeah.
His younger
First,
self.
he gets a very uneasy feeling.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then when he looks, he sees himself listening to a dream that Cooper talks about in Fire Walk with Me.
Yeah, and this is when all this stuff goes down that I think we tried to... So listeners will know that we know Twin Peaks very well. We don't know Fire Walk with Me as well.
I watched it once and I thought I would never watch it again. And now I'm going to have to fucking watch it again.
Let's watch it once.
I'm really upset.
We've watched it twice, and the reason I haven't watched Fire Walk with Me as many times as Twin Peaks is not because it's not good. It's just so disturbing and upsetting.
Yeah.
There's seldom a night that I'm like, oh, it feels like a Fire Walk with Me
right.
night.
There's nothing where you're like, you know what would be nice in the background? Fire Walk with Me.
Right.
And all the daddy-daughter raping.
I love how it ends in rape and murder.
Right. I mean, honestly, same reason my dad still gets mad at me about this. A Jew who has never seen Schindler's List. Never. But there has just never been a day where I wake up and say, like, today I want to watch Schindler's List. Like, I just don't ever feel that way. Like, and so, not that I'm comparing, but I'm just saying you seldom feel like going to dark places.
I know.
And Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me is way different tone than Twin Peaks.
Right.
And, when I first watched Fire Walk with Me, I was like, shit, like, this is not cool. It's
you guys
dark.
look at it if you're like, just, and you feel like it's fetal position, you're going to rock in the fetal position and cry.
And most people will say the new series is even like, not, it's not like the original, but Fire Walk with Me is like, it's definitely
bridge.
dark.
Right.
It's definitely dark.
Now I think the new season really does kind of, like, at first it felt way more like Fire Walk with Me than Twin Peaks.
Right,
now
exactly.
I think they've kind of found a little bit of a
balance.
Like a little balance where I'm it's like a combination of the best parts of both. Like, it's got all the creepy mythos stuff of Fire Walk with Me, but it has some of the sweetness of Twin Peaks and the character drive and a lot of the other stuff.
Who would have thought that there would be so much tie-in from Fire Walk with Me to Twin Peaks? Like,
so much more than Twin Peaks.
Like, it's so, like, if you didn't... That's when people are like, oh, you do this podcast? Like, oh, I should watch that. So it's just the 2 season? I was like, and the fucking movie.
Right.
Watch the movie. Watch it twice. You're not going to want to, but just rewatch it one more time.
Right.
And then try and get into the new season.
What you should really do, listeners, if you haven't done this and you want to do this, watch Twin Peaks Season 1 in its totality. Watch Season 2, Episodes 1 through 9. Skip until the last episode, and then watch Fire Walk with Me. And then you've got what you need. Because really those Gaslight episodes are truly Gaslight episodes. Like, he has brought nothing from those episodes. So you'll remember, Nate, there's a series of, like, from 9 to, 21.
Right.
Yeah.
It was harsh.
It was like 2/9 to 2/21. They're great for just like fun and campiness and like nostalgia, but they're not like good TV.
The Mounties.
And like Evelyn and like the mill plot becomes like the main plot. Like,
well, as it gets farther away from like the
Laura
key
Palmer,
murder,
right.
I mean, I think that even as it like when you watch the episode with the funeral.
Yeah.
You're still, so you're kind of coming out of that main story,
like
but
nice
you're
denouement.
still, it's nice to see all of those characters, but it's sort of like after that is when I really start losing focus on.
That episode
it just doesn't feel like it's going
That's
anywhere.
when it got canceled.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah. And it's totally, I mean, David Lynch has
happened,
said,
yeah.
and much has already been said about, like, they didn't want to reveal the killer and the network made them, and that was what ultimately, like, drove the ratings down and drove everything down, was like, this whole thing was built on a mystery. What makes The Return so unique and cool is that I think we're getting a lot of answers, but it doesn't feel like David Lynch is selling out or, you know, giving into a network or giving into commercial pressures in any way. I think, like, we're getting answers and we're getting somewhere, but it also feels artistic and surreal and different, you know, so I really think they've nailed it with The Return, and it's been a great way to bring everything together. I'm sad that we're close now to the end.
So I guess one thing about the dream that they remember with Bowie, we get to see Bowie, that I want to talk about is when he, like, points at Cooper and says, like, what does he say? Who do you think that is there? And I'm wondering, is it Coop there? Is Bowie out of his time? Like, what's going on?
I had a theory there that Bowie, so Philip Jeffries is just, we know Philip Jeffries is in the Black Lodge, and he is in the Black Lodge to an amount of time where he has learned how to communicate with, like, Dugpas and Tulpas and, like, have agency over these beings, that I think he at that point kind of comes unstuck, and when he sees Cooper, he doesn't know where he is in time or when, and so he doesn't, for a moment he's thinking maybe it's evil Cooper, doppelganger Cooper, and that's why he says, you know, who do you think that is there? But that's where, is that a real scene? Did that really happen?
I'm almost positive it didn't, because I remember, because I hadn't seen Fire Walk With Me before and I knew Bowie was in it, I was anticipating more Bowie.
It was so little.
And it was so little.
So, but I do remember that scene.
No, he comes
just not all of the additional,
But he never points at Cooper. It's just more like he comes in and then kind of disappears.
He says something, though.
Yeah.
He does say
and
something.
that's where, does he say the, like, thing about Judy that we'll get into next episode? But, like,
it's
like,
that too.
Extended.
I need to pull out my other notebook.
And so we Melissa, so tell our listeners what you discovered when you were trying to do research on it with the Fire Walk With Me thing.
Oh, because before all The Return, you could watch Fire Walk With Me on various platforms of the streaming medias, but now that The Return is out, all of that has been taken away and you just have to rent it now.
Right.
So, like, I was literally, as we were watching this episode, I was like, okay, Showtime, show me Fire Walk With Me so I can just, like, fast forward. Not there. Netflix, show me Fire Walk With Me. Nope. Here's anything that begins with fire. Hulu, do you maybe have it? No, of course you wouldn't. So you can rent it for $3, but I wasn't going to do it in this short of time because I would have had to download the Amazon Prime app. It would just be a...
I mean, that feels deliberate to me. Like, I think they're trying
we might have to do it togetherness.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I will donate $1.
And then the fact that Albert says, I'm beginning to remember that too, as Cooper describes it. It's not, I remember that too. I'm beginning to remember that too. Which makes me think, like, did that scene actually happen or no? I don't know if it actually did.
But I hear him though because sometimes you do when you hear someone recount something, you're like, okay, I'm starting to remember that again. But you don't usually say I'm beginning to remember.
Right, it's a unique way of putting it, which makes me think that David Lynch has been very controlling about things on IMDb, about, like, spoilers. They've been very, very close-knit with this. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to look. Maybe it did happen in Fire Walk With Me. Maybe it didn't. But I certainly needed the flashback. There have been other times when we've been like, that was a heavy-handed flashback that we didn't need. This time, I needed the flashback.
Most
I would never have remembered.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we get a transition.
Most of them I need, actually.
Yeah.
Most of them except for, like, the original, like when they first showed Bob.
Where they're like, remember who Bob is? And I'm like, oh, okay. If you don't know who Bob is, then stop.
But I like seeing Bob again.
It's true.
I did like seeing
Frank Silva, we haven't forgotten about you. An episode hasn't been dedicated to him.
Yeah,
yet.
it was like
the
first or second.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This one was dedicated to David Bowie, right? Yeah, because the next one is Margaret Lanterman.
Yeah, that's true.
So this one's David Bowie.
This one's
lots
David
of
Bowie,
dedications because there's lots of deaths in the cast of Twin Peaks.
Oh, that's true.
It's an old cast.
But let's go into happy thoughts of the Twin Peaks Sheriff Department, where someone ordered a ham and cheese sandwich, a turkey and cheese sandwich, a roast beef and cheese sandwich, and just cheese. And then Hawk has the audacity to be like, who ordered just cheese? Fuck you, Hawk. We all know Andy just ordered just cheese. Like, we all know it.
That's
like, you
Andy.
do too.
Andy's so cute.
Aww,
And we get, I love the way they arrest Chad, the douchebag.
I have mixed feelings about this.
No way.
No, I want him to be arrested, obviously, but they just
The
pull
way
a
they
gun
did
on him. Like, Hawk just whips out his gun. They don't read him his rights. And he's like, I don't think you know what you're doing. And I was like, but shouldn't someone, like, explain why he's being arrested? Like,
It's Twin Peaks. They, like, kind of fly by the seat of their pants.
But, like, if I was being arrested and I was like, what are the charges? That would be the first thing.
I mean, he
like,
knows. He knows what he did.
Right.
Did they say that? Didn't they say something
For
like
just
that?
generally being a douchebag.
No, they said, I think you know.
I think you know.
And then he
Peddling
goes,
drugs
this
to
is
assholes.
a big mistake. And then my only other note is, don't they have to read him his rights? I was like, I'm not, but I watch a lot of SVU.
They did that when they
buddy,
walked into a cell.
Hey, he took.
Right,
he
after
took
the fact.
He took the mail, though. That's a felony offense right
Right.
there. I'm serious, right? You
That's
steal mail, that's a felony
You
offense
mess
right
with
there.
the mail?
I
That's
know
why
that.
that package has been down in our lobby for...
Oh my god. Let's just get rid of that.
2 years.
No.
We all agree. In case listeners forgot, Nate's our neighbor. And that's why we talk about things
That's
like
why I
that
throw.
package.
If I get wrong mail, I just throw it out.
Right.
Then yours
That's
is
your
not right.
methodology.
So should you just throw it out, or
Let's just
should you
throw it
open
out.
it and
God.
throw it out?
Oh yeah, let's
Why
open it
don't
and
you
play
just
with
bring
it.
it to the person's door and just...
No, it's
No,
because they
it's-
don't
it's
live
the
here.
wrong
Yeah.
address.
Oh, then you have
Yeah.
to cross it out and circle the thing and put it back
Ugh,
outside.
God, no.
It's too much.
Too much.
This is a great scene. It really is. We got Bobby, Hawk, Andy, and Truman. They're going to Jack Rabbit's palace. I really love that Bobby's the central tie it together person.
Yeah.
And the way, these are all a big difference here. Like in Twin Peaks, the wooded scenes were not necessarily in Snoqualmie, Washington. These are in Snoqualmie, Washington, for sure. Like right by where
certainly
the exterior
the
of
cinematography is way better.
It was
Yes.
it was really
It's
good.
beautiful.
I'll admit. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very good. It does pull you in. It's very
Yeah.
atmospheric.
Yeah.
'Cause if you-
yeah.
Yes.
If you follow any of like the actors on like Instagram, they'll hashtag Snoqualmie.
Oh,
They're like,
yeah?
oh, back here.
We love Snoqualmie
Because,
so much.
you know,
So great.
so
I
it's-
feel like we hiked these paths. Like it
Yeah,
really is like
yeah.
right outside Salish Lodge, which is the exterior of Great Northern. There are all these great hiking paths that are right by Snoqualmie Falls, which is the waterfall. And like this is all, they're keeping it really local to Snoqualmie in the return, which is also super cool for fans.
So
like it's just
cool.
really cool. And I thought the shot where they're walking on that sort of wide path, the trees are extremely tall and green and verdant, and it's their gray uniforms or their brown khaki patrol. Aw, we miss you, Harry. You looked so good in khaki. Walking down the
Except for
paths
pants.
was just like a great shot. They looked really good. And we get to the Jack Rabbit's palace and end up with this scorched engine oil or lava in a circle and
Well,
NATO.
first, can I just say that one, Bobby's talking about his dad's place of work, which always reminds me of the X-Files where Mulder goes into that weird shed of just machinery.
Yes.
That's where I just feel like Major Briggs
yeah,
used
because
to
he's
work.
talking about the blue pine or the
Because he's like, oh, Andy's
Book.
like, what did
Blue
your,
Book, yeah.
what did
but
your,
it's like Blue Pine Mountain, isn't it?
Could be.
it could be
Yeah.
because
That's
yeah.
where Major Briggs is.
Yeah, the facility is nearby and it burned down.
Right,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
right a minute.
And he's like, all I remember
Blue-
is there was a lot of
could be
machines
full-time.
because, like, Andy's like, what did your dad do? He's like, I don't know. It was top secret.
yeah.
And then there
That's
was,
classified.
right. And then they were, they went to basically a weird tree stump and were like, oh, Now it's 253 yards due east. Let's put some soil in our pockets, guys.
And this is all going back to the letter that was found, like it was a
in the bullet
up in
thing.
the chair, in the bullet, that all of this is from Major Briggs to Bobby Briggs. And, like, really, Bobby Briggs is just kind of the messenger from Major Briggs to the sheriff's department.
And my big question is, how do you know how many yards you have walked? I don't hike.
I mean, if you're
paces,
a military guy,
I think you go by paces, but yeah, you're kind of guesstimating.
I just was
but
like,
then
how do you know how many yards?
Obviously, they don't need to guess much longer once they get to a certain point and they see smoke or
right.
a
Just keep walking until you trip over a
dead,
naked person with no eyes.
Yes. So speaking of naked person with no eyes,
with
thank
tooth
you, Uncle
marks
Nate.
in her eyes.
So this is where we get Nato, who I thought for sure was dead. I thought she sacrificed herself.
Totally dead.
I thought she sacrificed herself so that Cooper could come into the world. So interesting that she's
just got
alive.
thrown into the nether.
Yeah, into Twin Peaks. And this is where we see, so much interesting too, we just had a solar eclipse. We have this moment that was, preordained in time by Major Briggs. It's like a specific place, time, and something else. I don't know. It's 253. It's Jackrabbit's Palace.
Place and time.
Yeah.
I think place and time.
And that's where they find Nato, and it's also where the portal kind of opens. And so, interesting, I thought that Andy, of all of the people in the group, is the one who gets sucked into the portal.
I mean,
that's where I'm like, why Andy?
I knew it was going to be
not?
Andy.
Andy.
That was so good, Pat.
I just figured it would be Andy because he's like the purest soul,
right.
and I
The
feel like
innocent.
he's the most Cooperish out of all of them, where he's just more like, he's just the more positive one. Because when I first saw that, I was like,
it's like a
fuck,
child.
they're going to take...
we both
right.
reacted
You're not
that
going to
way.
overthink it, right? If you think like
wonder.
Andy does.
Yeah.
And I really thought, I was like, fuck, they're going to take Andy. Fuck, we're never going to see Andy again. I was like very concerned that Andy would never come back.
Me too.
Yeah,
I freaked out about that too.
One thing on the rewatch too, I think maybe we didn't see everything that the giant told him, or the fireman as he calls himself.
Right, which we need
because
to
because
he
comes back and he knows what to do, and he's very sure of himself and very confident, Andy.
Yeah.
So I don't think we heard his whole message because
it's just too much to take in.
I didn't
at
understand.
once.
Like we see the images, he shows him images through the smoke thing, but I don't know what they mean necessarily.
Well,
or maybe I missed. I
wrote down all the images. Okay. We're gonna unpack them.
Okay.
So
first, let's just talk about how the giant is now fireman.
Right. So the giant's a
fireman.
Yeah.
There's a
what I think
law enforcement.
The insinuation with the fireman is that he puts out fires.
Walk with me.
Right. Exactly. And he kind of has been.
Okay.
He has been helping to put out the fires of evil.
He's a good guy. He's a good guy.
He is a good guy. We know the giant is not a force of bad. The giant has been a force of good. So I think that's actually cool to call him the fireman.
He is known to us, I think. The one-armed man. So.
Yeah, and the fireman and the man from another place and one-armed man are all like neutral to good figures. Yes. They're not Dugpas. So I think that makes sense. In his
one-armed man was a Dugpa, though.
Right.
He's a
redeemed Dugpa. Yeah. He's a redeemed Dugpa. The fireman, good rebranding. I'm fine with that. I think it makes sense. He puts out fires. So Andy, I actually think, I agree with you guys that I think Andy is chosen because he's the purest. He's like a blank slate to take it all in naturally without like...
Fireman plus Andy's spinoff, I would watch
it. Yes. So when Andy gets his origami tea kettle swan of confusion, that opens up this like port. It opens up this port. So Andy's basically like looking at the like this like window, and he's getting all these images that the fireman is giving him, and I feel like the fireman almost gives Andy like all of the information of tying everything together. He's like, here, Andy, I'm going to give you this.
Right.
Right, he shows him the otherworldly entity.
It's a little like...
Bob. Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot of, hey, audience, don't forget all of this other shit that just has gone down, because I know that you've only been half paying attention, but, like, just so you know, remember creepy alien guy from the black box that killed those people from episode 2.
It's
that
like
was
the
first one.
tie-in of the circle. So
continue.
So the kind of order that we go in here is that, and I wrote portal theory, they're all connected. Guys, I don't want to do like a
all his movies are connected.
Gotcha. Like from Parks and Recreation. She gotcha. That's like, this is my gotcha moment. I have been saying these portals are connected. It's all about portal theory. And this is where I
haven't denied you on.
This is where I really think we
next
see
episode.
Definitively that portal theory is where it's at. Naysayers of portal theory, you're wrong. So first we see the black box portal, then we see kind of a shot of Doug Puzz, just general Doug Puzz, and Andy's kind of like,
the convenience store.
Well, first we see that weird alien giving birth to Bob in a bubble.
Right.
That's the otherworldly entity.
Right. Yes. It's black box Doug Puzz, and then it's Bob Bubble.
Yes.
And then it's gas station.
Well, and then after gas station, that's when we see the electrical wires.
Right.
And this is the first time, we've obviously known that electricity is a big thing. This is the first time I thought, oh my God, the travel through line is electric wires. Like the portals are connected through these wires of electricity. Like electricity is literally what connects the portals.
It's what connects the world, right?
Right.
So
anyway, so we get the portal electricity, and then we gotta have Cheryl Lee somewhere, and here she is. Cheryl Lee, Laura Palmer, and the two angels. Then we see...
And what was the thing that you caught about the angels?
Well, in Fire Walk With Me, she said that the angels no longer watch her or something.
Right.
And it was when she was looking at her, she had a picture of a door with some angels.
It was like an angel tea party.
Yeah, and then the angels went away, and that's when she got locked into the portal.
Yep.
And saw Annie for the first time.
And what's interesting is we get the two angels and Laura, and then we get the two Coops, and their faces are kind of like melding and splitting. The evil Coop and the good Coop.
It spells that out.
First we get what's her name?
NATO.
I have.
Oh yes, NATO. Yes,
NATO.
I forgot.
And then
I
we get
two times NATO and forgot her. No, but there's an image of her, and then it goes to the two Coops.
And then it goes to the two Coops, and then it's
phone line 1. It's a flashing phone line.
Yes, blinking light.
Do we think Andy gets all these messages too?
No, I think Andy's just taking them in, and much like when Cooper calls them in the original series and is like, I know who killed Laura Palmer. Yes, it can wait. Like, he's just taking in this dream and this information, and he's gonna I think Andy knows because of his experiences. He's like, I'm just taking it in. I don't understand it. I'm remembering it. And when it comes back and it matters, it'll come back and matter.
Right.
I think he doesn't know what it means yet. But Andy's the only one now who has all this information together in one place.
Right. He's the only one in Twin Peaks that has what us as watchers know.
Right. Andy is basically given a summary of everything. So he gets the phone line blinking. Oh my God, that's so important. Then we get this phone line blinking, and then a moment that, it's really devastating and weird, where Andy is leading Lucy, and you don't see his face. He's leading her into the reception area, and then backing away and leaving her there, and she looks terrified. It looks like the scourging of the Shire in Lord of the Rings. It's not a good omen.
Right.
It's not good.
It's in the sheriff's department, but we don't know.
And it's present day Lucy.
I can't tell if her eyes are afraid or not, though. They're just always.
I know, her eyes are always so big.
At 100%.
Everyone else is at 50. And then we get another shot of NATO. Then the 6 from Fat Trout Trailer,
which we saw in. Mostly, it's the same shot from Firewalk with Me.
Mostly.
Yeah. And then back to reality of Jack Rabbit's palace. And that's when Andy comes in he's like carrying NATO, and it's such a great...
And they're all flickering and stuff, but he takes charge and like says she's important and we gotta get her to safety in the jail cell next to douchebag Chad and some drunk guy who keeps bleeding out of his mouth and repeating everyone who says stuff. So
do you think somebody's after her, though?
He does say there are people who want her dead.
Because he put her in the... Yeah, so what does that mean, do you think?
Well, I think
it's like Doug or
I think if
Evil Coop.
Oh, if he found out about her, he'd want her dead.
Around. Oh, yeah. So maybe that's... Yeah, and Andy doesn't know all the details, but... And this is like Andy in the original Twin Peaks was the one who unlocked the whole map of like, it's not a symbol, it's a map. You know, like sometimes Andy and Lucy get it right and they're the ones you should listen to because they don't overthink it. They just like act on instinct and get it right. So like I love this moment being given to Andy. It could have been Hawk. I think Hawk would have been the next choice to give this scene to.
I feel like it would have been too much if it was Hawk.
Yeah.
He's already gotten a lot.
He's got a lot.
And he's got the log lady, right?
Yeah, he's got all the log lady scenes.
He has his native sixth sense, which that they rely on so much also. So I think that they had to split it up.
Yeah, I think we need to prove that, like, and then, you know, Chad is yelling at Andy and saying, like, you're no cop in the prison cell. And I think this is proving to us that, like, no, Andy is a good cop. Like, there have been times when we've been like, what is Andy doing? But this is like
just
Andy's
like I
good.
think Lucy's a great employee for. Yeah. I do think she's the one who took Chad down.
Yeah, she did.
Really
she saw
she saw him steal the mail, and that's a felony. Like I said.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay. So here we get into some theory that I want Melissa to unpack this theory because it's pretty big.
When they're in the jail cell, Lucy's putting pajamas on the Asian lady. And then there's who's deemed in the credits as drunk guy. Or the drunk. But my big thing is maybe the mimicking bloody guy is Billy. Because we haven't seen Billy for a few days. He's obviously been in the cell for a few days. He's super gross looking. And then he's also, as we'll get into it, as we get into the end of the episode, we'll see that he was bleeding from his nose and his mouth.
Yep.
And then he's been very red lodgy.
Yeah, I think in terms... super dead on.
They call him crazy a lot in that last scene. Like he's acting all crazy. He jumped over a 6-foot fence.
Right.
Yeah.
But
then he's also mimicking, which is what Dougie's been doing.
Yeah.
But worse. And then, like, in the beginning of when NATO is in the cell and they're like, he's mimicking her chattering, it's almost like they were like, actually communicating versus like
birds.
Right. And we don't know for sure, like, if, you know, the sweetness of Ducky Coop, that doesn't necessarily mean like every person who's returned from an experience has that same like sweetness. Like the mimicking thing is definitely a Dougie parallel. I don't know how we didn't get it. I think you're so dead on, Melissa. I think that has to be Billy. Like,
it was watching it for the second time. It was like, well, he's very bloody.
Yeah, from the nose and mouth.
And they're focusing so much on him. And, like, Lynch doesn't give us, like, a... He doesn't do, like, here's just a know-nothing scene. It's like, pay attention to all of this. It's going to come back, and we're going to have to talk about it.
You know what? I have to call myself out, because I remember when we were watching the original series and talking about speculations for the new series, I was like, well, the new cast is like 214 actors. There's no way that all 214 of those have like an actual part. I'm sure many of them are just random extras that don't mean anything. There has not been one character who doesn't mean anything. Like, everybody has a meaning and a purpose and is tied in. Like, I don't even know how he does it.
So many of them that we need to go back and kind of watch because like
that's a Game of Thrones parallel right there because there's a million characters.
I know, and yet somehow in Game of Thrones they're better when they cut out characters, and in Twin Peaks they're better when they add characters. Like the more characters, the better. It's working great.
And we sort of get another addition here with
Freddy.
Freddy, yeah.
He's very interesting, I think. We cut to James Hurley and his glove-clad friend, Freddy Sykes, which Sykes, when I think of that last name, I think of Oliver Twist, Bill Sykes, who's the villain in Oliver Twist. But they're Great Northern security guards, and they are cracking nuts together. And we have met Freddy before in the Roadhouse.
And Freddy is cracking nuts with his green glove, which at first you're like, okay.
You don't really get that he's cracking nuts.
Yeah, that he's cracking nuts and that he has super strength in that hand.
It's a poor way of doing it.
Which, who else had super strength? Nadine. I'm wondering if there's a Nadine parallel here.
That's a good question. I think they'll make it full circle.
But he only gets super strength when he put on the glove.
Right. So we get this long story that's very dreamlike. I mean, the way he explains this story, it's like a dream. Yeah. But before we get there, I want to get your opinion as a group on James right now. James's state of being.
Fucking hate him.
Yes. Okay.
I saw an article on IO9 that said, "Is James cool?" And I didn't even read it because I don't care. So I don't know what the answer was, but maybe my reaction.
I think that reaction does tell you.
Oh my god!
Everything
I love
you need
that
to know
on so many levels. Well, like
I don't think he's cool. But
it's a reference to itself because in the first episode, like Shelley was like, he's still cool. He's always cool.
He's always cool.
But it's like, he was never cool. I think probably it's a meta reference of how fans are like, either they love James for nostalgia reasons or they're like, we hate James. Like,
I don't understand how anyone loves him.
Well, and Shelley's like been serving pie. Since we left her 20 years ago.
I love his bad acting. I love his bad acting.
It's gotten slightly better, but...
I mean, slightly, yes, I agree.
He's like another... right now, he's just like a vessel for information, kind of like...
Yeah, it's true.
You know,
he's taken on a secondary role. Like, Freddy's
if anything,
the more important person.
Tammy's the new James.
Tammy's the new James.
Tammy is a dude.
Oh. Mind blown. It's so true. Yeah, so we get this whole story, and the gist of the story is that Freddy was visited in a dream by the giant/fireman and told that he should go to these dreams are so specific. He should go to a store and find this package of gloves and take one glove out of the package and put the glove on his right hand. And that hand would then have the power of
if you had a weird dream, then like suddenly you were like passing by the store that was in your dream, you would be like, I'm just gonna go in.
Oh, I know.
And how did he? So it is quite amazing that he remembered these specific instructions and quotes from his dream. Like, that's pretty tough.
Well, if it's a really interesting dream, I think you do. You take note. He wrote it in his dream. Well, it's life-changing. Okay. Because he did go and do that.
He said he wrote it in his notebook too? Okay.
Well, he didn't say he wrote it in his notebook, but then the next day when he like remembered and acted on it.
Right.
So his life did change from this dream.
I guess you could maybe speculate that he was just like summarizing like the gist of what.
Well, he also was in a place mentally where he wasn't ready. Like, he was like, what am I doing with my life?
Well,
like,
actually,
this is pretty shitty.
I mean,
he has this dream being like, here's your destiny.
Right.
And then you would remember if you had a dream that was like, this is what you're meant to do, Pat.
And really, it wasn't a dream. He was actually sunk into a vortex. So he actually was sucked into a portal.
Oh, he actually was.
So, we know
that he...
Yeah, I just wrote, he gets a strange feeling, jumps onto a high stack of boxes, and he's sucked up into a vortex, floating, sees the fireman, the giant.
But that's what I'm saying, like, even Andy, like, do we know if Andy got those specific
Right,
as
images or well, that's where it's like, is the Black
But that's
Lives
also why he
not?
picked up NATO and was like,
Yeah.
we gotta bring her to a cell right now because she's important.
Right, that's why I think he got some instructions that we didn't see.
Yeah, fair.
Like,
but either way, I mean, whether it was dream instructions or sucked into a vortex, the reality is he now has a hand that allows him to have the power of a pile drive with his hand.
Super one punch.
Yeah. I love
an
the
iron
term,
fist, you might say.
The term jobsworth. I learned. I mean, this must be a British term.
Jobsworth. Hey, Jobsworth.
It's more me Jobsworth, which I never like. I'm like, I love that. It's like someone who just says no. They won't like bend the rules for you because it's more than their job's worth. And we don't know if Freddy ended up like beating that guy to death.
Well, that's where I was initially thinking maybe he was on the run, kind of.
Yeah, because he says he punched him, and we know later that punch is mighty powerful.
But he punched him in his George? What did he say?
His face. Isn't a George a face?
Yeah.
I don't fucking know. Because I live in this country.
I know, but sometimes Britishisms are just like a part of the zeitgeist. But
there's so much British slang in like the last half of it. He's just like, just so you know, and from London town, guys.
London he also verbatim quotes Day in the Life, and they have a little chuckle about it. So great, it was great, and it made me know either James is acquiescing or he actually knows a line of music from the Beatles, which makes James a little bit cooler. Just a little bit cooler.
Yeah, they're like good music fans in Twin Peaks. I mean, look at the Bang Bang Bar.
Oh, yeah, because they do say, are you going to go to the Roadhouse? Who's playing? I don't know. Like, we'll still go. Like, whatever.
I think
they're big music fans. Yeah, if something like the Bang Bang Bar actually existed in Snoqualmie, Washington, I would go there 4 times a year. I mean, like, good bands playing in Snoqualmie, Washington, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
That's pretty amazing.
Like, we were at that one bar.
I know, and it's not like that. It's not like that. It's a just keep your wallet close kind of bar. Like, it's not like that at all.
But my big question is, so you have this massive dream, and then you get
reality, maybe.
So you have a dream, you get a supernatural hand. And then it tells you to go to Twin Peaks, Washington.
Because he's the fireman, and this is going to be someone who puts out fires.
But still, then you go to Twin Peaks, and you're like, this is Twin Peaks? And then you end up as a security guard for a hotel?
What do you mean? It's gorgeous there. Marijuana's legal. People are sleeping with people half their age. Like, it's an awesome place to be. I see nothing. I see, like...
But when you come from London to...
where it's loud and smoky and gross.
All right.
I want to live in Snoqualmie. I love it. But I see your point. I think that's fair. Like, he's waiting it out for his purpose. And we'll see what it is. And I like, too, how this scene really, like, pivots and makes James a secondary character. And Freddy is really the main character.
James has always been a secondary character.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying, because you never saw him with any kind of major plot lines. Even as a secondary character. I mean, he knew Maddie, but he wasn't there when, like, Maddie was getting murdered. Like, he was never... anything involving James was secondary plot point. Was B plot, C plot.
Yeah. I would say James is incredibly reactive. Like, everything that happens to him is reactive to
as soon
something
as
else.
He finds out
he's never proactive. He doesn't make things happen. He's not a driver of things.
As soon as he finds out Maddie's dead, he's like, this isn't right. This isn't...
He's like, so I'm going to just leave town.
I'm going to leave town. Like, this is not good.
His go-to
method
no
shit, it's not good,
leave.
you idiot. Like...
He doesn't want to take ownership of any of his decisions, and like that's been my big.
He loved Laura, but then he suddenly loved Donna.
I feel like too, it's like he's just in love with being in love with someone he can't have. Like he's still kind of in the same place, going after Renee, who like.
Oh, Renee.
I know. Yeah. So it's like James has not progressed at all in the same way that like Ed and Norma's relationship hasn't progressed at all. Like it's just like going in circles, the same thing. But what's interesting is this little scene where James is walking through this kind of tunnel area and he hears that humming that Beverly and Ben Horn have been hearing in the Great Northern.
Oh. Yeah, it seems like, he found that.
And finds this kind of like secret room maybe, and then it fades out.
An electrical humming.
Yeah, electrical humming. So. Then we get to Elk's Point number 9 bar, which is clear. It's like the town where it was like the doppelganger of Twin Peaks. Like it's like the doppelganger of Bang Bang Bar. It's the same type of sign, but it's not friendly. It's very like cold.
Redneck.
Sarah Palmer's going there because she's an alcoholic and she's out of booze.
As we saw last episode, she ran out of vodka and
that was a great call.
Bloody Mary
I was
mix,
like, I don't know what she's doing.
Which is because she ran out of the liquor store without that.
Ooh, stuff. And guys, I have a theory I just want to put out there. I think maybe one of the boxers in the boxing match that she's watching is Bushnell Bud Mullins.
Battle and Bud.
And we might find that out. That would be a nice way to tie those things together.
This whole scene, I think... I mean, most people like would love to see like an asshole like this get his neck off.
He is the classic douche.
He was a master of words, though.
I mean, with the C-U-N-T word.
Yeah, I mean, the way he could tie that into...
Country.
Yeah.
It's a free country.
But side note, do they still smoke in bars in Washington? I feel like Washington is
Twin Peaks, they do.
You know what I think? No, I think it's still legal there. I think it is. There's still a lot of states.
It did smell smoky in that bar we went into.
Yeah, there's still a lot of states that have, allowed smoking in bars.
Basically, this douchebag hits on our sweet, sweet Sarah Palmer. Not so sweet anymore, let's face it. Go ahead, Melissa.
Oh, I was going to say, he does have a shirt that says, "Truck you."
Truck you. This is how it goes down, where Sarah does literally nothing wrong, at first at least.
Right.
Where she's like...
Could you mind your own business, please?
Yeah,
she tries to put please on everything.
Yeah. And she says, would you sit back where you were? She's really trying to just be like, I'm not interested. And men, when a woman is not interested in you, it doesn't mean she's a lesbian or she's hatred or like a bitch. Like, she's just not that into you.
She just doesn't want to kill you right now. You know, like,
she doesn't want to fuck you is the main thing.
She'll kill you.
And like, this guy can't understand that or take that. And I feel like I hear so many stories about women being like, I turned this guy down in the nicest way, and the next thing he just yelled at me about being a lesbian. Like, don't do that, dude. That's so not
that's another
cool. Like,
social commentary.
Everybody gets rejected. It's okay. Like, just gracefully accept it and walk away. Like, don't be such a douchebag.
I think that's part of the social commentary that David Lynch has put in.
Like, she's being really very cool about it until she's using her Sarah Palmer powers.
Which you wish that all women had that power to do.
To take off their face and use it to bite someone else's face off.
To bite his neck off.
He deserved it. I mean, he was a dick, and I just was not unhappy to see him meet his demise.
And it's one of those, It's one of those, can you just leave me alone?
Yeah.
It's like, so you're a lesbian, right? Like, he's like, well, you just like to eat women. And then she's like, well, I'll eat you. And then she takes her face off. The Palmer style now, which is just what it is.
You take your face off.
Take your face
Sometimes
off.
Sometimes you just gotta take your face off. Another Game of Thrones parallel. What?
So face off, and then I just have face off, and then bites him.
Yep.
But like, it was like weird, creepy images with the face off.
How did she not have any blood on her face or clothes?
I don't know.
That's
didn't,
the trick.
Though.
That's the
bartender,
trick.
when he comes by, is like...
Not one drop on her.
I know.
That was the best part.
I know. I loved her just being like...
Creepy Red Room Sarah Palmer, like, was replaced with, like... Holy shit, what the fuck is this? What is this? And then, like, the guy's like, what happened? He's like, I don't know, he just dropped on the ground. He's like, with half his neck missing?
And then she's like, yeah, it's a real mystery. Wink, wink, creepy look.
It's a real mystery.
Creepy side eye. The guy just kind of backs away from her.
It's a mystery. And he's like, call 911. We got a dead one at the bar.
It's kind of the first time that I'm like, you know what? I'll have a Bloody Mary with you, Sarah Palmer. In previous episodes, I've been like, no thanks.
I mean, that was badass.
She was badass. Badass award goes to Sarah Palmer. Like, fuck you, truck you guy.
Some hand and teeth live in your face. I mean,
yeah. Whew.
It's cool.
It's yeah. And you know what? Honestly, for what she's been through, especially if we're thinking it all started with like a slug down her throat while she was sleeping, which is rough.
Has not been confirmed yet.
Hasn't been confirmed.
Yeah, we don't know that,
but we all assume it. And sometimes when you assume, it's right, Melissa.
Sometimes when you assume, it makes an ass out of you and yourself.
Guys, are we ready to get into deep Audrey theory? Because we're about to go into the Bang Bang Bar and talk about Megan and Sophie having... So I've started to think these Bang Bang Bar scenes that are just like two chicks in a booth talking... They're starting to become connected. Yeah, they're connecting to central stories. They're reminding us that people are acting batshit. They're talking about dreams, which are three of the big things, like disparate stories coming into a central location, dreams, and everything's heightened emotionally. And so I think we're getting that in this scene with these two women, Megan and Sophie. And so Sophie's a little bit older. Megan's pretty and more classically lynchy, like pale brunette girl.
Right.
And Sophie asked this Megan character if she's seen Billy. So here we're getting another Billy reference.
They also talk about...
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Like, have you been getting high at the nut house
You're
or the
hanging
nut
out at
place?
The nut house.
She calls it the nut place.
You're getting high
later
in the nut
on.
House.
You're getting high at the nut house.
Yeah.
No, I've been getting high in my room. Not the nut house, but you've been in the nut. You've been by the nut and that nut place, like.
So this is where I think like
there's some sort of meth house,
make a case for Audrey being in a mental institution, and that mental institution being like Ghostwood something.
But I think it's not a mental. I think it's a meth house or like a drug den.
Could be.
I always thought it was wherever the weird when we had Richard and Shelley's new boyfriend.
Yeah.
Wherever that place
could
was,
be.
where it was like the weird, where they were doing all the drugs and trying all the drugs. At least that's kind of where my mind went initially.
Could be. I mean, the reason I get the nut house thing, there was that reference Audrey made. I mean, besides the other things we've talked about in past episodes.
Why would she get high at the nut house?
Because she's stealing drugs from the hospital.
All right,
So, I mean, like, that's the thing, like, that's the thing that made me think. Because we do know one of the through lines that we haven't totally, like, that hasn't come to the surface but's been boiling is these drugs coming up from the sparkle coming down from Canada. Which seems like a stupid thing, but they build and build, like, nothing.
Everyone's doing some kind of drug.
Nothing means nothing in Twin Peaks, which is so incredible. Like, the way they've tied things together that I didn't even think Lynch would do. Because in the original series, it wasn't like that. Like, you might have something that was, like, thrown out and then forgotten about forever. But this series, things are getting tied in that, like, I would never have thought would get tied in. So I think this sparkle coming down from Canada that we know Becky and Steven are on, is going to be a thing.
And
Red is on.
Red's going to come back into play. Red has some sort of power too.
Yeah.
Because that wasn't mad. That wasn't just like sleight of hand magic he did a few.
So it's like there's drugs being dealt. There's also potentially this kind of like mental institution that could be like Ghostwood something, because earlier Audrey says it's like being back in Ghostwood, and like in previous iteration of Twin Peaks, Ghostwood didn't exist yet. It was the forest area that they were fighting over. Mm-hmm. Like that was the middle plot, was like Catherine versus Ben about Ghostwood development.
Ghostwood could be a nut house.
So Ghostwood could be a nut house that Audrey is still in.
Right.
And so we're getting that, like, you hanging out the nut house, and Megan says, flying in my own room. Then she proceeds to tell this story about Billy coming into her house, which we find out that Billy is sleeping with her mom, who's Tina. So You know, she is telling the story, and she mentions twice that she thinks her uncle was there in this kind of like...
But she's not sure.
Yeah. I think my uncle was there, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's Lynch saying the uncle's going to be someone that we are currently have a relationship with.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to be Charlie because...
I kind of think it's going to be Charlie, too.
Yeah.
That's my initial reaction.
Because Charlie's the puppeteer here. I mean, Charlie seems like he's a good guy. He keeps going back to that, like, it's late and I'm so tired. But, like, Charlie's a manipulator. I don't trust him. I trust Audrey because she's who I know. And I see her in this heightened, fucked up state. And you know what? I trust that she has a good reason to be there. And I don't trust this random strange character. And I think he's manipulating her. And so it makes total sense that, like, this whole weird familial connection is that Tina and Charlie are brother and sister. And that, you know, there's this understood thing where Audrey's sleeping with Billy. And like,
and so is Tina.
Megan is, and so is Tina, and Megan is the daughter. So, I mean, I think it's Charlie who is there. And somehow Charlie is so manipulative, he has gotten Megan to think that she didn't see this or to be unsure of it. The same way that Audrey is unsure of where the roadhouse is, of who she is, of, you know, like little girl who lived down the lane. So I think this is another clue that, like, this all ties together. And also, it makes me a little bit feel positive that, like, our beloved Audrey's not crazy. She's being manipulated by some sort of crazy doctor.
Yeah. She might also be a little crazy.
She might be a little crazy. I mean, she was in... Or she could still be in a coma. I mean, that's the other thing. There's so many things that could be happening with Audrey. Who even fucking knows? But I love these, like...
But she hasn't been mentioned from outsiders at all.
No, that's the weird thing. You're right.
Not this episode.
Not this episode.
So, one other interesting thing about Billy is that he jumped over a 6-foot fence. And
superhuman strength.
That girl made a note of that. It was like a 6-foot fence, and then then he banged his head in the kitchen sink, I believe she said.
Yeah, and they did say there was a lot of blood.
Kind of like Coop, or like Doppelganger Coop banged his head against the mirror, but why would he bang it?
And to go with Melissa's theory, if the inmate, drunkard guy is Billy, there was a lot of blood that was pooling on the floor.
I mean, that could be Billy. That could be Billy, and he's imitating.
So if that is Billy, and this girl is telling this true story, then Audrey's not in a mental institution. You know, like she knows these people. Like it's like. I think there's probably some middle ground of like...
There's some, you're right. Like, she Audrey could be in a mental institution,
She can't cross the threshold. She hasn't left the house yet. That's what is making... She hasn't put on her coat. She hasn't left the house.
There's something not right.
Something's not right there.
Not right.
And then we get a Roadhouse song with Lissé going rogue in the Wild Wild West. A pretty song, very nice singer. Always good times. I think... We're really, guys, we're so close to the finish line. It's so sad. It's so sad. Great things with part 15. We're all dying to talk about 15. And we will talk about it so soon. But meanwhile...